Hello. Hope everyone is having a wonderful day today. Today is going to be lesson number 2 of learning English with the news. So I have a few headlines I want to share with you. You're going to learn a few phrasal verbs, a few expressions, and some new vocabulary in English. So let's not waste any time and let's get to the first headline here. Looking at the first headline, we have Disney 21st Fox layoffs. TV divisions brace for deep cuts. So basically what this headline is talking about is the company Disney 21st Fox. I guess there was just a merger between Disney and 21st Fox, but there's a plan to cut the budget. So when we talk about cutting the budget, it's basically reducing the size of the budget. So it's basically reducing the amount of funds that's available to go to programming or to pay employees. So that's what budget cuts are. We always talk about that when we're talking about school budget cuts. It's always basically in every election, there's questions of, funding programs, paying taxes, or cutting the budget. And so you'll see these headlines a lot where they're talking about budget cuts. It's just meaning to reduce the amount of funding, basically, so that they can either save money or because they don't have enough money to pay everyone, they cut the budget, right? So this is going to be a deep cut. And then looking at this phrase, to lay someone off. So that's a phrasal verb, to lay someone off. It's also a noun, like a thing, an action, a layoff. So this one is a layoff, or it's talking about layoffs, plural, and it's saying that there's going to be multiple layoffs. So layoffs is basically when your employer doesn't have any work or can't afford to pay you, and so they don't necessarily fire you, but they lay you off. So firing you is like, they have an issue with the way you work and they want you to no longer work for them. But when the situation is a little more complicated than that, we call it a layoff, right? So employers do this when they don't have money to pay their employees, or there's no demand for the employee's service anymore, or a variety of reasons why an employer would do this. But it's distinct from firing someone, because firing someone is like you don't want them to work for you anymore. Whereas when you lay someone off, it's just it's a little more cordial. And most likely, if there is a demand for their services in the future, you would hire that person again, or you would, solicit that person's services. So that's what laying off someone is. And then the other word I wanted to focus on here was TV divisions brace for deep cuts. So what is to brace for? I posted this on Instagram as a little quiz. Most people got it right. Basically, to brace for something is like to prepare yourself. It's like if I tell you brace yourself, for example, maybe you're at the dentist office and they're doing some work on your teeth, and the dentist might tell you, okay, brace yourself. I'm about to pull really hard here. This is going to hurt. That's what it means to brace yourself. So that's the idea behind that. The employees and the TV divisions, the TV organizations are preparing. They're bracing for these deep budget cuts or deep cuts. They also, another popular term for that is downsizing. Companies talk about that a lot when they reduce the amount of staff because they're trying to maximize their profits, or reorganize, or figure out a way to be more profitable. They will downsize. So that's what this headline is talking about here. Like I said, I posted a few quizzes on Instagram. People did pretty well with those, answering those questions. So it looks like most people get the idea, but I wanted to take a minute and give a little further explanation on these, so that if you were reading these, you would be able to understand them easily and just go over some maybe unfamiliar vocabulary. This next headline is from Real Clear Politics. Chris Matthews, he's a pretty famous journalist, a broadcaster. I'm not quite sure what network he works for, but I think it's MSNBC. Anyway, he says, it's a quote from him: "Why was there never an interrogation of Trump? How can Mueller let him off the hook?" So the phrase I want to focus on here is to let someone off the hook. So in this headline, he's basically saying that because there was no interrogation, no interview with President Trump, the special prosecutor who was investigating President Trump is letting him off the hook. So basically all this means is it's actually a pretty common phrase that we use, and we use it to talk about not getting in trouble. So if you get let off the hook, it means that you didn't get in trouble. You'll hear this commonly with talking about justice and the law. If someone commits a crime and doesn't go to jail or doesn't get any punishment for that crime, we'll say that person got let off the hook. So that is the phrase there. You might also hear it if you have an obligation, right, that you don't really want to do. For example, maybe your boss calls you and it's the weekend and says, "Hey, I need you to come into work." And then when you return the call, he says, "Oh no, never mind. We got everything all taken care of. So you're off the hook today." It's like you're not responsible. You are free from responsibility, or you are free from consequences. So that's what being let off the hook means. This one here is from the Hill reporter. This is how Robert Mueller kept his Russia investigation under wraps. To keep something under wraps. Basically, when you keep something under wraps, you basically keep it secret, right? So if I tell you a secret, I might say, "Hey, keep it under wraps," because not a lot of people know about it. So for example, I might say, "Yeah, you have to keep this under wraps. I'm going to tell you, but keep it under wraps because not a lot of people know." Maybe it's a secret at the office, right? Maybe the boss is planning on making a big announcement and I'm the only one who knows, but I can't keep quiet about it. I have to tell somebody. And so I'm like, hey man, the boss is going to make a huge announcement today. Don't tell anybody though. He wants to surprise us. So keep it under wraps. It's like, don't tell other people about it. Another headline I found that's similar from Reuters. Okay, this one here says, "Turning your smartphones. How Mueller kept a lid on Trump-Russia probe." This one here is showing the phrasal verb to turn in, where we talk about basically handing something to someone else or giving something to someone else so that we can't use it. We say we're turning it in. You'll often hear this phrasal verb used in classrooms. When you turn in an assignment, it's like you're delivering it to the teacher, right? You're basically transferring it from your hands to someone else's hands. So turning your smartphones, we imagine from that there that it's referring to the people who worked on this investigation couldn't have their smartphones available while they were working. They had to basically take their smartphones and maybe keep them in a safe or lock them away, or the boss, the person who's in charge of the investigation, took control of their cell phones or smartphones. So that's, some companies maybe have that policy, right? If you're working on something in secret or they don't want you to be distracted, they may make you turn in your smartphone before you start your shift. And then to keep a lid on something. So to keep a lid on something is a way we talk about being quiet about it, right? So a lid is like the top of a cup, a lid. And then we say, sometimes when we want somebody not to talk, we'll say, "Hey, put a lid on it," all right? And then in this example, you'll even see it here where they're saying how he kept a lid on the investigation. So if you have a lid on someone's mouth, basically, that's the idea, right? You're putting a lid over someone's mouth so they can't talk. So to keep a lid on it is a phrase we use a lot to tell somebody to not say anything or to stop talking. It's kind of a less harsh way of saying shut up. Like, hey, put a lid on it. If my little brother's bothering me, I might say, hey, buddy, put a lid on it. All right, well, that is lesson 2 of learning English with the news. I hope you learned a few new phrasal verbs, a few new expressions, and I look forward to your feedback. I hope that this continues to be an effective way for you to learn English, and I look forward to the next lesson. So keep studying and keep learning, and we'll see you in the next lesson.